Hi.
Hello.
The IOC, one of the biggest brands in the world, but how big actually are you?
How big are we? Next year in Tokyo, the world is watching, and this is how big we are. Everywhere across the globe, people will be fascinated by Tokyo. So, yes, we are big in this respect. Now, when we look at the economics, we certainly are important. We generate, thanks to sponsorship and selling of rights, 5 billion over a quadriennium, over 4 years. And this is more than 3.4 million a day that goes back to sports, goes back to the athletes. With this, we can fund the activities of national Olympic committees, we contribute heavily to international federations, and also, very importantly, to the budgets of the organizing committees, to the tune of about 1 billion in the context of the Winter Games, 1.7, 1.8 billion for the summer editions of the Games. So yes, these are vast sums of money indeed.
Economics of the Games is your job. You've been in the IOC for 23 years. You've been executive director for the last 5 years, so clearly you have a very good grasp of what's going on. Is it fun being the executive director, and what's your major role?
Is it fun? Almost every single day.
Yeah.
Above fun is fascinating because the Games is a life transforming experience. No matter who you are, an athlete, a volunteer, anyone watching, it's pure energy and source of inspiration. So yes, it is outstanding to be in such a position indeed.
What's on your desk at the moment? I might say that from an outsider, we can see coming up, we've obviously got the Youth Olympic Games in Lausanne. We then have Tokyo, Beijing, Dakar. Then we move on to Paris and we've got Los Angeles. Is that, do you have little piles on your desk?
Yes, and the piles look really different.
Okay.
When you're getting closer to the event, this is Lausanne and Tokyo, you know, it's like having a party at your place. You are in that last stretch where you have to have all details ready, and it's always sort of a rush, right? And that's what we call ourselves the operation. And we are preparing for this operation, and it translates into, for example, Tokyo, the test events where the organizers are testing their capabilities, training their people, from their professionals to the volunteers as well. So this is all happening right now. And when we look with some distance, we have the furthest away, which have been awarded Los Angeles, where we work more on the commercial program, on engagement, on youth program and mobilization, and then we project ourselves for the next. And the next are 2030, 2032 and above. And there the job is totally different. This is then a partnership with cities, with regions that have a desire to host, and we're guiding them through their projects so that we have something in the end that is meaningful for the hosts and for the IOC. So this is far more strategic, while Tokyo or Lausanne are absolutely operational.
We can get into a couple of details, but I know a few years ago, was it back in 2014, we started to have the Agenda 2020. Now we have the new norm, which has been on for a year or so. How did that adapt and is adapting to, let's say, for example, Tokyo?
Right. Agenda 2020 was a strategic roadmap, and the new norm for us translate in the Games in a number of measures that are doing two things. One, saving costs on one side, and on the other, looking at the experience we can offer.
So
The whole
saving
package.
costs, is that for the host country or for the public or for the athletes or the IOC? Who's that for?
And it's all of this.
Okay.
And I'll get into some details. But the whole idea is to reinforce the value proposition.
Okay.
And the value proposition is great economics on one side, and on the other, a fabulous experience. And we're looking at those two. So when it comes to the savings, we did not target the organizing committee or the city or the public authorities, but the whole.
Okay.
Right? So measures in Tokyo were targeting, for example, the construction of venues, where we felt too many venues had to be built, and that was the initial project. we wanted to save on capital investments. So we cut back on the venues, which are investment long-term for a community, but we felt in terms of legacy, it was not necessarily justified. So we're using some of the 64 venues, some that are further away from Tokyo, but that help the local community investments to be vastly reduced. Second, measures for the organizing committee. And there we're speaking about a totally different budget. It's really the cost of setting up the event itself. And there as well, we've made tremendous efforts in all areas, using more of public transportation, reducing the size of temporary venues, reducing the duration of rent of some venues, which have an impact on an organizing committee. And all in all, between the investment budget, where we could cut about 2.4 billion, and the operating budget of the organizing committee, where we could save 2.2 billion,
Right.
I say Agenda 2020 and the new norm have had a tremendous economic benefit for the organizing committee and Tokyo.
With the public, often it's sensationalized, and it's like a paradox in a way that the IOC is the most recognizable, amazing brand in the world, and then we have a lot of people saying, well, it's too expensive, all that sort of thing. So how does that work? There's a big difference between the operating budget, which I guess you can control, and the non-operating budget that I read the other day that Japan estimated it was going to start at about $6 billion and it's gone to $25 billion. What's the differential in those? And do you have to spend a lot of time defending that?
Indeed.
Yeah.
And really, we have to make the point extremely clear to the audience. There is on one side the budget for the organization of the event itself. This one is called the organizing committee budget, always balanced and financed by private revenues. And that is very important. Between the international sponsorship, the sales of rights for the images at the time of the games, the local sponsorship and ticketing, we balance an operating budget.
Okay.
And that is fabulous because in the context of Tokyo, we're speaking about a 5.6 billion budget. So we're speaking about 5.6 billion spent in the local economy, fully private, no public money for this budget.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is generating in turn, obviously, additional economic activities, tax revenues for Tokyo Metropolitan Government and others. So that is a great business on its own. Then there is a totally separate budget, which is the investment one into infrastructures. And this is the desire, the ambition of a community to develop roads, to develop new security features, and sporting venues.
And you act as like a catalyst, I suppose, to put
We
that forward.
act as a catalyst, but a very responsible one. And our message through Agenda 2020 is very clear. No investments, especially in sport infrastructures, if not needed by the community over several decades.
Okay.
So we're promoting two things. One, the use of temporary venues, and the market is outstanding now. You can do many things temporarily. And also, if need be, going outside of the city, of the region, or the country.
Yes.
Why not? And this is something we do here for the much smaller games, the Winter Youth Games in Lausanne, where we're using venues in France, for example. And to have that flexibility means that the hosts at large, the host community, do not have to invest if it's not needed. The project has to adapt to the local condition and not the reverse. Yeah. The games adapt to a city, to a region, to a country.
Are you happy with the way it's going? Because you've been in the organisation 23 years. So you saw Athens 2004, you saw various other things that perhaps the legacy is not as good as it could be. Are we now at perfection? Or do you think in another 5-10 years it's going to be, oh, we'll do something else, we'll find something else?
We can refine, we can improve. Nothing is as good that we cannot improve, okay? So let's be clear, what we do today, we are very proud and we see some extremely powerful results. Nevertheless, in the future, we will continue to improve. Now, we have to recognize that in the past, mistakes were made. And there we have to be clear that some of the problems we are still facing in terms of image and perception are linked to decisions that were made in another era. In 2014, we turned the page.
Yeah.
We really work in spirit of partnership with all the prospective cities that have an intention to bid in the future. The whole idea being that the games have to be profitable for those hosting, while at the same time fulfilling the expectations from the world watching and the IOC as well. And that is a win-win partnership that we really insist on working on together from the very, very beginning. Essential. So, as we've seen for 2026, for example, the nature of the projects, both in Sweden and Italy,
Because you
were
went
really
to
vastly
Calgary
different.
and you went to Array and
Correct.
you seem to be everywhere
Correct.
all the time.
Correct.
Did you get the right result?
We got the right result in the
Okay.
sense that the two projects that were brought to the session really reflected the Agenda 2020, which was using what those two countries could display at best. Then we have chosen Milano Cortina. And listen, if you look at all the venues that will host the events in Milano, in Cortina, in Bormio,
Okay.
they are the very best.
Okay.
What they're doing each and every year is host World Cups, World Championships. Untolds in biathlon will have the World Championships in February next year. They know how to do it.
Okay.
But those games geographically are more spread out than they were in the past. But it makes sense because we're using the strength of Northern Italy.
Have you reached your optimal size now? Because your top sponsors, amazing, bring in loads of money, but maybe people think they could bring in more. Your media bring in a fortune. Is there a risk on you being too big?
What matters is relevance.
Okay.
And what we've seen over the last decade is growth in what we consider to be smart progressions. First, we see the Olympic program that is increasing. But it's increasing for a very good reason. Sport is changing on a day-to-day basis. You have new sports, new disciplines, and the Olympic program has to reflect that. Yes, we've seen growth in the coverage, the media coverage for the event, for very simple reasons. Sport is consumed more and more on every platform, so you cannot cover the games today with the traditional approach with traditional media we had 15 years ago. Now digital is incredibly important as well. You have to have formats of competitions which are much shorter than in the past. So this produces indeed growth,
Yeah.
but it's growth that reflects first development in society. We don't consume media the way we were, and the games have to remain relevant. Sport, it's exactly the same. And then you have the appetite of people to join and be part of this massive party. And there, I would say we are more constrained by the size of the venues, and there we're not pushing, so we don't see growth of spectators, for example. We are always in the 8 to 9 million spectators all in all. So some of the factors remain fairly constant. Others, they increase, but for right reasons.
Good. It's good to see it's going forward. Let's finish on a local basis. We're lucky to have you in Lausanne. What do you actually contribute, though, to the Swiss economy?
We're contributing about 1,800 jobs, full-time equivalent. We're contributing about 1.2 billion to the local economy. And this is obviously the IOC and all the system around the IOC. We have a large number of international federations and organizations that are based in the region here because we are around the Olympic, in or around the Olympic capital. So we take pride in being a very active local player.
And last question. In Tokyo, what one thing will the fans notice differently from before that's really exciting you?
Where to start? For me, the most defining factor will be a sport program that contains 5 new sports. those that are very urban, such as BMX freestyle, skateboard. We'll have as well sports climbing. We'll have a little bit further away surf for the first time in the Olympics as well, and that will give a very special flavor. The way half pipe or slope style have done for Winter Games, we see that coming for Tokyo. And the local organizers are doing something very special here in a region called Odaiba on one of the island. This will be a real urban park with a mix of more traditional sports that were on the program for quite a while, like tennis, like swimming or volleyball, and at the same time integrating these new sports. So this will be quite a special area. What is super exciting as well is the spirit that those sports are bringing translate into different solutions for us. Venues will not be necessarily closed. For example, warm-up for the basketball 3-on-3 will be open for anyone with or without tickets.
Okay, wow.
And you'll be able to high-five the basketball players. So we're trying also to look for the culture of these sports to reflect on the way we are delivering these sports. And frankly, it's going to be a massive success, let alone the rest, because all more traditional sports already in the program in previous games going to be sold out, guarantees. The interest around the globe is absolutely immense, so many things to rejoice about.
Looking forward to following the journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.